How does one wield two? Nope. Pro tip: Ireland in November is really cold. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. Anyway, I made a keyblade and this is how. I started out with stencils, and as always the measurements are in the description. I cut them out with a jigsaw, and this wood happened to be an absolute bitch to cut, to the point that it actually tempered the blade on the jigsaw and turned it blue. The wood I used was about 2 centimeters thick and it's pine board. I also got a broom handle and cut it to 92 centimeters and then measured out where to drill the holes for the dowels. I used a drill press to drill the holes in to make sure they were all the same, and if for some reason you're going to record stuff like me, don't put your tripod on the same bench as a drill because cameras really don't like vibrations. That was clever. The dowels I used were about 6mm thick, and I glued and hammered them into the bowl. I then glued the handles in and connected the crown. Once the glue was dry and I'd wiped away all the excess, I filled in all the blanks and gaps with wood filler. I used a stencil to draw out the Mickey Mouse head on MDF and added a little piece for the chain to hold it. I then cut that out with the jigsaw as well, and then drilled a hole for the chain to go through. I then sanded that down with the Dremel a little bit so that it would be easier to slot onto the chain. Next, I measured out the pieces to cut for the raised part of the handle. I cut them with the jigsaw as well, which was also fun because it was the same wood, and then used a Dremel with the sanding bit to shape them. I started out by rounding in the centre for them to sit on top of the broom handle, and then sanded off the edges until they were round. I then used a teeny little disc piece to put in the grooves. I glued them on and then moved on to the chain. Since I'm about as sturdy as a noodle, I got my dad to help me cut open the link on the chain so that I could take the excess off and put Mickey Mouse on. I drilled 2 holes in the top of the keyblade, popped in some glue, and then used a mallet to tap the chain in. And now it's finally coming together. I measured out the little groove under the handle and then used Dremel again to sand that out. I used modelling clay for the little rings that sit under the groove, and I left them pretty loose so that I could glue them in place once they were dry. I also added 1 extra piece to the bottom of the handle just so the groove had less of an abrupt joint to it. For the screws I got some roundy little plastic fake gems and I glued them to the corners of the handle on each side. So now the keyblade is blinging. Once the glue was dry, I used a little disc piece on the Dremel again to cut little X's in them so they looked more like screws. I also painted them white at some point, and I have no idea why I did that. Also glued the ring and extra yoke once they were dry, and then quite poorly primed the whole keyblade because I was kind of short on time and I couldn't really do it all nicely and neatly with layers. But it still worked just as fine. I then hung it up on the washing line and just waited for the Gardaí to show up at my house after getting a call from my neighbours about their crazy neighbour hanging swords up in her garden. Also, spoilers, Bakuzan from Kill la Kill is next month's build. And then onto the painting, where I started with a pretty basic coat and then just kind of added light and shade where I felt it was needed. For example, the inside and the outside of the handle, where I painted them darker and then added some highlights along the edges of the handle. I also added some darker paint into the grooves and the sides of the raised parts. I did something similar with the blue part. I basically started with a simple base coat and then added light and dark parts until I was happy with how it looked. And then I did the same thing again on the little Mickey Mouse. I did the same general thing on the crown. Basically, I just wanted to have a bit more depth and a realistic look than just a flat grey. So for the whole thing, I kind of went with a theme of dark on the sides and light on the top. The actual pole part of the keyblade always takes forever to blend properly, but I'm really stubborn and I refuse to be defeated, so eventually it came together the way I wanted it to. I painted the rings and then painted the other side and the edges of the Mickey Mouse charm and any other bits that I wanted to touch up. The last bit is the ribbon on the handle, and keyblades are always the most awkward one to put a ribbon on, but it looks great and it feels really comfortable to hold once it's done. I tried to cut the ribbon with a terrible scissors and had a bit of a moment, and then finally found a good scissors that actually worked and just glued the ribbon in place. So that's how I made the keyblade. Let me know in the comments anything that you think I should have done differently or I could have done differently or anything you would have done differently. And shh, you're so loud. I'm gonna try to get 1 sword build up every single month now. So I've had one for October and November, and the next one that you saw a snippet of in this video will be up in December, and hopefully I can stay on track with that. That'd be really great. Keyblades are for sale on my website, which is linked below in the description. All my social media stuff is linked below. If you want to follow me on any of that, then feel free to. As always, safety cat ears were very necessary for any power tool usage in this video, as well as the obvious things of dust masks and safety goggles. I just forgot to record those parts because I was basically just in a hurry to get back inside to the warm. I'll be doing a giveaway at 1,000 subscribers as well of some kind of build. The winner can choose, but I'll talk more about it when it gets closer to the time. Subscribe in the meantime and you might be in with a chance of winning something. Oh yeah, pink mustache for November. That's it for this video anyway, so be sweet and be kind and be strange, and I'll see you in the next video. So, bye!